It's becoming more and more clear the diminishing importance of commitment to a team. The top two reasons why players and families are frequently switching teams are this chasing exposure as one, and then prioritizing this personal gain over team development. And this is whether you're in college, high school, AAU, and I think of AAU at all levels, or just a lesser travel basketball. I see that young players are taking their lead or learning their lessons from the NBA, and it seems okay. Because it's their life and their career, it seems okay. But this constant movement kind of prevents young athletes from developing the all-important resilience or learning to overcome adversity or building these strong relationships with teammates and coaches. So instead of the long-term growth, which has to be the most critical goal as you're attempting to evolve a basketball player, these constant movers are being conditioned to seek the instant gratification or seek the personal advancement over the team's success. And if you look around the NBA today, you'll kind of see that players are moving from team to team, especially different from my era in the 80s and the 90s. But because the NBA players are doing it, the rest of the world is going to do it too. And in the NBA, let's face it, the franchise is struggling to maintain this long-term chemistry, or they're struggling with the lack of loyalty. These days, players are not sticking to a franchise through thick and thin. They're not grinding through the hard years in order to build something that's lasting. It's all but over those days. The personal preferences, the business opportunities, the championship windows, that's the new currency in that league. And that is what dictates the movement more than ever before. I just think of Jimmy Butler from this year as an example, because he was the heart and soul of that Miami Heat. He was that leader that pushed them deep into playoff runs. But in the end, it just wasn't enough. He ended up prioritizing his own situation. And whether it was about finances or fit or personal preferences or simply just not feeling valued enough, he demanded a trade and moved on. And while this might be a smart decision or this might be a solid business move, it continues to have an impact on the overall state of commitment in professional basketball and I think other sports as well. Let's not pretend that Jimmy Butler is the first to do this or the last. I think of the great LeBron James, who has built a legacy on not just winning and personal dominance, but he's also known for strategically choosing where he plays. And the same can be said for a Kevin Durant or even a Damian Lillard, who was vocal about his commitment to Portland. And again, on the other side, who was really praised about his commitment to Portland. But eventually, he moved on when the franchise's direction was no longer in alignment with his goals. This shift isn't just a basketball thing. It's kind of a reflection of how athletes view their careers. This new idea that the personal brand is vital, right? Like I said earlier, it's the new currency. And they don't regard themselves as just members of a team anymore. And if the pros view their careers through that lens, then the younger players will too, because the young players, they hang on every word of NBA players. And that's a fact. And it's whether or not they're saying it or whether or not they're doing it in their body language or their deeds or their actions. On the flip side, I'm smart enough to understand that the NBA is a business first. And teams never hesitated to trade players or cut players when it suits them. So somebody would ask, well, why should players stay loyal then? When organizations don't, they are unwilling to return the favor. And I think that the rightness or the wrongness of that reality is not the issue here. It's the impact on youth basketball that's the issue here for me. I think young players or school-age players are developing these same habits. I see that young people, they're kind of adopting this pro-level self-interest without having earned the pro-level foundation of, I think, a discipline or development or contribution. I think Jimmy Butler or LeBron James or Kevin Durant or Dame Lillard, they've earned the right to move on. I believe that them prioritizing their fit, finances, and legacy, especially after their years of dominance and sacrifice and leadership, I think it's perfectly fine. But the kids that are watching them are skipping the context of those guys' career, and instead they're copying the outcome. They're ignoring their journey. And I think that's where the danger lies. I think the truth is that it's dangerous for children to embrace the idea that discomfort or challenge means it's time to move on, rather than let's grow through it. Because that mindset is going to kill resilience, and it's going to hinder their long-term growth. The truth is that it's dangerous for children to start viewing teammates and coaches as just stepping stones and not communities of the past. I think it chips away at commitment and loyalty and leadership. I think the truth is that it's dangerous for children to focus on image, brand, fit, or how things feel. I think that's premature for youth. They haven't mastered the fundamentals yet. Skill development, work ethic, or team contribution should be the priorities for them. I think the truth is that it's dangerous for children to develop an attitude of entitlement and think that the grass is always greener somewhere else whenever they're uncomfortable. Again, the NBA isn't necessarily wrong for evolving the way it has, but our jobs as youth leaders, coaches, and parents is to contextualize the choices that NBA players make and help young athletes understand the difference between their path and the pros' path. If we continue to allow kids to mirror the movements of the pros, then we're stripping the game of its heart and soul. We may be creating a generation that's quick to opt out rather than level up. And if we can erode that, then we're not just losing basketball. We're losing the values that the game was meant to teach. Loyalty, grit, sacrifice, and team.